Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mataji, you're Dantavakra, okay? And you're the sages. You're Balaram. After the demise of Shishupal, Shalva, and Paundraka, a foolish demoniac king of the name Dantavakra wanted to kill Krishna to avenge the death of his friend Shalva. He became so agitated that he appeared on the battlefield without the proper arms and ammunition, and without even a chariot. His only weapon was his great anger, which was red hot. He carried only a club in his hand, but he was so powerful that when he moved, everyone felt the earth tremble. When Lord Krishna saw him approaching in a very heroic mood, he immediately got down from his chariot, for it was a rule of military etiquette. The rule should take place only between equals. Knowing that Dantavakra was alone and armed with only a club, Lord Krishna responded similarly and prepared himself by taking his club in his hand. When Krishna appeared before him, Dantavakra's heroic march was immediately stopped, just as the great, furious waves of the ocean are stopped by the beach. At that time, Dantavakra, who was the king of Karusha, stood firmly with his club and spoke to Lord Krishna as follows.
It is a great pleasure and fortunate opportunity, Krishna, that we are seeing each other face to face. My dear Krishna, after all, you are my maternal cousin, and I should not kill you in this way, but unfortunately, you have committed a great mistake by killing my friend Shalva. Moreover, you are not satisfied by killing my friend. I know that you want to kill me also. Because of your determination, I must kill you by tearing you into pieces with my club. Krishna, although you are my relative, you are foolish. You are our greatest enemy. So I must kill you today, just as a person removes a boil on his body by a surgical operation. I am always very much obliged to my friends, and I therefore consider myself indebted to my dear friend Shalva. I can liquidate my indebtedness to him only by killing you.
As the caretaker of an elephant tries to control the animal by striking it with his trident, Dantavakra tried to control Krishna simply by speaking strong words. After finishing his vituperation, he struck Krishna on the head with his club and made a roaring sound like a lion. But Krishna, although struck strongly by the club of Dantavakra, did not move even an inch, nor did he feel any pain. Taking his Kaumodaki club and moving very skillfully, Krishna struck Dantavakra's chest so fiercely that Dantavakra's heart split in twain. As a result, Dantavakra began to vomit blood, his hair scattered, and he fell to the ground, spreading his hands and legs. Within only a few minutes, all that remained of Dantavakra was a dead body on the ground. After the death of Dantavakra, just as at the time of Shishupal's death, in the presence of all the persons standing there, a small particle of spiritual effulgence came out of the demon's body and very wonderfully merged into the body of Lord Krishna. Dantavakra had a brother named Vidurata, who was overwhelmed with grief at Dantavakra's death. Out of grief and anger, Vidurata was breathing very heavily, and just to avenge the death of his brother, he appeared before Lord Krishna with a sword and a shield in his hands. He wanted to kill Krishna immediately. When Lord Krishna understood that Vidurata was looking for the opportunity to strike him with his sword, he employed his Sudarshan Chakra, his razor-sharp disc, and without delay cut off Vidurata's head. Vidurata, with its helmet and earrings. In this way, after killing Shalva and destroying his wonderful airplane, and then killing Dantavakra and Vidurata, Lord Krishna at last entered his city, Dvaraka. It would not have been possible for anyone but Krishna to kill these great heroes, and therefore all the demigods from heaven and the human beings on the surface of the globe were glorifying him. Great sages and ascetics, the denizens of the Siddha and Gandharva planets, the denizens known as Vidyadharas, Vasuki, and the Mahanagas, the beautiful angels, the inhabitants of Pitriloka, the Yakshas, the Kinnaras, and the Charanas, all showered flowers upon him, and sang songs of his victory in great jubilation. Decorating the entire city very festively, the citizens of Dvaraka held a great celebration. And when Lord Krishna passed through the city, all the members of the Vrishni dynasty and the heroes of the Yadu dynasty followed him with great respect. These are some of the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna, the master of all mystic power, and the Lord of all cosmic manifestations. Those who are fools, who are like animals, sometimes think that Krishna is defeated. But factually, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and no one can defeat him. He always remains victorious over everyone. He alone is God, and all others are his subservient order carriers. Once upon a time, Lord Balarama heard that an arrangement was being made for a fight between the two rival parties in the Kuru dynasty, one headed by Dana and the other by the Pandavas. He did not like the idea, and he tried to act as mediator to stop the fighting. Finding it impossible, and not wishing to take an active part on behalf of either party, he left Dvaraka on the plea of visiting various holy places of pilgrimage. He first of all visited the place of pilgrimage known as Prabhasa Kshetra. He took his bath there, and he pacified the local brahmanas and offered oblations to the demigods, pitas, great sages, and people in general, in accordance with Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. That is the Vedic method of visiting holy places. After this, accompanied by some respectable brahmanas, he decided to visit different places on the bank of the river Saraswati. He gradually visited such places as Pritudaka, Bindusara. Actually, there's something wrong with my eyes. I actually can't see right now.
He gradually visited such places as Pritudaka, Bindusara, Tritakupa, Sudarshan Tirtha, Vishala Tirtha, Brahma Tirtha, and Chakra Tirtha. Besides these, he also visited all the holy places on the bank of the Saraswati River, running toward the east. After this, he visited all the principal holy places on the bank of the Yamuna and on the bank of the Ganges. Thus, he gradually came to the holy place known as Namasharanya. This holy place, Namasharanya, is still existing in India. And in ancient times, it was especially used for the meetings of great sages and saintly persons with the aim of understanding spiritual life and self-realization. When Lord Balaram visited that place, there was a great sacrifice being performed by a great assembly of transcendentalists. Such meetings were planned to last thousands of years. When Lord Balaram arrived, all the participants in the meeting, great sages, ascetics, brahmanas, and learned scholars, immediately arose from their seats and welcomed him with great honor and respect. Some offered him respects by standing up and then paying obeisances, and those who were elderly, great sages and brahmanas offered him blessings after standing up. After this formality, Lord Balaram was offered a suitable seat and everyone present worshipped him. Everyone in the assembly stood up in the presence of Balaram because they knew him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Education or learning means to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, although Lord Balaram appeared on the earth as a Kshatriya, all the Brahmanas and sages stood up because they knew who Lord Balaram was. Unfortunately, after being worshipped and seated in his place, Lord Balaram saw Ramaharshana, the disciple of Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation of Godhead, still sitting on the Vyasasan. He had neither gotten up from his seat nor offered him respects. Because he was seated on the Vyasasan, he foolishly thought himself greater than the Lord. Therefore, he did not get down from his seat or bow down before the Lord. Lord Balaram then considered the history of Ramaharshan. He was born in a Sutta family or mixed family, born of a Brahman woman and a Kshatriya man. Therefore, although Ramaharshana considered Balaram a Kshatriya, he should not have remained sitting on a higher seat. According to his position by birth, he should not even have accepted the higher sitting position, because many learned Brahmanas and sages were present. Lord Balaram also observed that Ramaharshana not only refused to come down from his exalted seat, but did not even stand up and offer his respects when Balaramji entered the assembly. Lord Balaram did not like the audacity of Ramaharshana and became very angry at him, declared from his seat, This man,
Romarshana, is so impudent that he has accepted a higher seat than that of all the respectable Brahmanas present here, although he was born in a degraded Pratiloma family. When a person is seated on the
Vyasasan, he does not generally have to stand to receive a particular person entering the assembly. But in this case, the situation was different, because Lord Baladev is not an ordinary human being. Therefore, although Ramaharshana Sutta was voted to the Vyasasan by all the Brahmanas, he should have followed the behavior of other learned sages and Brahmins present, and should have known that Lord Balaram is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Respects are always due to him, even though such respects can be avoided in the case of an ordinary man. The appearance of Krishna and Balaram is especially meant for re-establishment of the religious principles. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the highest religious principle is to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam also confirms that the topmost perfection of religion is to be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Should I continue? Yes. Okay. When Lord Balaram saw that Ramaharshana Sutta did not understand the highest principle of religion, in spite of his having studied all the Vedas, he certainly could not support his position. Ramaharshana Sutta had been given the chance to become a perfect Brahmana, but because of his ill behavior in his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his low birth was immediately remembered. Ramaharshana Sutta had been given the position of a Brahmana, but he had not been born in the family of a Brahmana. He had been born in a Pratiloma family. According to Vedic concept, there are two kinds of mixed family heritage, called Anuloma and Pratiloma. When a male is united with a female of a lower caste, the offspring is called Anuloma. But when a male unites with a woman of a higher caste, the offspring is called Pratiloma. Ramaharshana Sutta belonged to the Pratiloma family because his father was a Kshatriya and his mother a Brahmana. Because Ramaharshana's transcendental realization was not perfect, Lord Balaram remembered his Pratiloma heritage. The idea is that any man may be given the chance to become a Brahmana, but if he improperly uses the position of a Brahmana without actual realization, then his elevation to the Brahmanical position is not valid. After seeing the deficiency of realization in Ramaharshana Sutta, Lord Balaram decided to chastise him for being puffed up. Lord Balaram therefore said,
This man is liable to be awarded the death punishment because although he has the good qualification of being a disciple of Lord Vyasadeva, and although he has studied all the Vedic literature from this exalted personality, he was not submissive in the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, a person who is actually a Brahmana and very learned must automatically become very gentle also. But although Ramaharshana Sutta was very learned and had been given the chance to become a Brahmana, he had not become gentle. From this, we can understand that one who is puffed up by material acquisitions cannot acquire the gentle behavior befitting a Brahmana. The learning of such a person is as good as valuable as good as a valuable jewel decorating the hood of a serpent. Despite the valuable jewel on the hood, a serpent is still a serpent and is as fearful as an ordinary serpent. If a person does not become meek and humble, all his studies of the Vedas and Puranas and his vast knowledge of the Shastras are simply outward dress, like the costume of a theatrical artist dancing on the stage. Lord Balaram considered,
I have appeared in order to chastise false persons who are internally impure but externally pose themselves as very learned and religious. My killing of such persons is proper to check them from further sinful activity.
Lord Balaram had avoided taking part in the battle of Kurukshetra, and yet because of his position as an incarnation, the re-establishment of religious principle was his prime duty. Considering these points, he killed Ramaharshana Sutta simply by striking him with a kusha straw, which was nothing but a blade of grass. If someone questions how Lord Balaram could kill Ramaharshana Sutta simply by striking him with a blade of kusha grass, the answer is given in Srimad Bhagavatam by the use of the word Prabhu, Master. The Lord's position is always transcendental, and because he is omnipotent, he can act as he likes, without being obliged to follow the material laws and principles. Thus, it was possible for him to kill Ramaharshana Sutta simply by striking him with a blade of kusha grass. At the death of Ramaharshana Sutta, everyone present became much aggrieved and cried out, Alas, alas! Although all the Brahmanas and sages present knew Lord Balaram to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they did not hesitate to protest the Lord's action. They humbly submitted.
Our dear Lord, we think that your action is not in line with the religious principles. Dear Lord Yadunandana, we may inform you that we Brahmanas posted Ramaharshana Sutta on that exalted position for the duration of this great sacrifice. He was seated on the Vyasasan by our election, and when one is seated on the Vyasasan, it is improper for him to stand up to receive a person. Moreover, we awarded Ramaharshana Sutta an undisturbed duration of life. Under the circumstances, since your lordship has killed him without knowing all these facts, we think that your action is equal to killing a Brahmana. Dear Lord, deliverer of all fallen souls, we know for certain that you are the knower of all Vedic principles. You are the master of all mystic powers. Therefore, the Vedic injunctions cannot ordinarily be applied to you. But we respectfully advise you to show your causeless mercy upon others by kindly atoning for this killing of Romaharshana Sutta. We do not, however, suggest what kind of act you should perform to atone for killing him. We simply suggest that you adopt some method of atonement so that others may follow your action. What is done by a great personality is followed by the ordinary man.
The Lord replied,
Yes, I must atone for this action, which may have been proper for me, but is improper for others. Therefore, I think it is my duty to execute a suitable act of atonement enjoined in the authorized scriptures. Simultaneously, I can also give this Romharshana Sutta life again with a span of long duration, sufficient strength and full power of the senses. Not only this, but if you desire, I shall be glad to award him anything else you may ask. I shall be very glad to grant all these boons to fulfill your desires.
This statement by Lord Balaram definitely confirms that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is free to act in any way. Although his killing of Romaharshana Sutta may be considered improper, he could immediately counteract it with greater profit to all. Therefore, one should not imitate the actions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should simply follow the instructions of the Lord. Although great learned sages present realized that although they considered the action of Lord Balaram improper, the Lord was immediately able to compensate with greater profits. Not wanting to detract from the mission of the Lord in killing Romaharshana Sutta, all of them prayed,
Our dear Lord, the uncommon use of your Kusha weapon to kill Romaharshana Sutta may remain as it is. Because you desired to kill him, he should not be brought back to life again. At the same time, your lordship may remember that we sages and brahmanas voluntarily gave him long life. Therefore, such a benediction should not be nullified.
Thus, the request of all the learned brahmanas in the assembly was ambiguous because they wanted to keep intact their benediction that Romaharshana Sutta would continue to live until the end of the great sacrifice. But at the same time, they did not want to nullify Balaram's killing him. The Supreme Personality of Godhead therefore solved the problem in a manner befitting his exalted position. He said,
Because the son is produced from the body of the father, the Vedas enjoin them that the son is the father's representative. Therefore, I say that Ugrasarva Sutta, the son of Romaharshana Sutta, should henceforth take his father's position and continue the discourses on the Puranas. And because you wanted Romaharshana to have a long duration of life, this benediction will be transferred to his son, the son Ugrasrava, which will therefore have all the facilities you offered, a long duration of life in a good and healthy body with no disturbances and full strength of all the senses.
Lord Balaram then implored all the sages and brahmanas that aside from the benediction offered to the son of Romaharshana, they should ask from him any other benediction, and he would be prepared to fulfill it immediately. The Lord thus placed himself in the position of an ordinary Kshatriya and informed the sages that he did not know in what way he could atone for his killing of Romaharshana. But whatever they would suggest, he would be glad to accept. The Brahmanas could understand the purpose of the Lord, and thus they suggested that he atone in a manner beneficial to them. They said,
Our dear Lord, there is a very powerful demon of the name Balvala. He is the son of Ilvala, and he visits this sacred place of sacrifice every fortnight on the full moon and moonless days, and creates a great disturbance to the discharge of our duties in the sacrifice. O descendant of the Dasharha family, we all request you to kill this demon. We think that if you kindly kill him, that will be your atonement on our behalf. The demon occasionally comes here and profusely throws upon us contaminated, impure things like pus, blood, stool, urine, and wine. He pollutes the sacred place by showering such filth upon us. After killing Balvala, you may continue touring all the sacred places of pilgrimage for 12 months, and in that way, you will be completely freed from all contamination. That is our prescription.
Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 78th chapter of Krishna, the killing of Dantavakra, Viduratha, and Roma Harshana. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you to all the readers. Do we need some air in here? Do we need some air in here, do you think? Yeah, I think so. Om Jhana Tminan Pasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakoda Mahyam Tadhati Shapadantikam Vande Hang Shri Guru Shri Jutapada Kamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Shagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sadivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Shahagana Lodita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vancha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you very much. The first Krishna dispatches the Dantavakra, the friend of Shishupal, and then Dantavakra's brother, Viduratha. Yes. Then we hear about Lord Balaram and his travel on pilgrimage. Lord Balaram heard that there was a fight impending between the Kauravas and the Pandavas, and he wasn't happy about this. He tried to stop the fight, but he couldn't. He was unsuccessful and didn't want to take sides, so he went on pilgrimage. This is a practical move for someone frustrated with the way things are going. You just go, instead of, yes, one can go walking to holy places. The Vidura also took the same course. He was grievously insulted by Duryodhana, and so he left the palace of the Kauravas and decided to go on pilgrimage. And in the course of that pilgrimage, he met the great sage Maitreya, and the topics they discussed appear in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Lord Balaram took advantage of the situation for traveling to these holy places, and he visited all sorts of places along the Saraswati and the Jamuna, blessing these places by his presence. And finally he came to, or gradually he came to the Naimisharanya. The Naimisharanya has been a place of pilgrimage for a long, long time, since ancient times, Prabhupada said. And when Lord Balaram arrived there, there was a great sacrifice going on. These things would be done. There'd be a great sacrifice, and there'd be learned Brahmins and scholars and sages, and they would discuss transcendental topics for thousands of years. We have trouble with an hour of Srimad Bhagavatam, but they used to discuss these topics with great interest for thousands of years. So let's open up some space here. Yeah. And we can move forward and make some space in the back. Yeah. Good. Vasudeva. Hare Krishna. So when Lord Balaram arrived, everyone stood up, the great sages, the yogis and transcendentalists, Brahmins, and so on. And they honored Lord Balaram and worshipped him. But because they knew he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Vedaischa Sarvairaham Eva Vedya, the culmination of knowledge is to understand Krishna, or the personality of Godhead. So Lord Balaram accepted the worship and then took his seat, but he saw that the speaker at the sacrifice, Ramaharshan Sutta, hadn't stood. He just remained seated on his Vyasasana. He was, in fact, literally the disciple of Vyasadeva, and so he should have known better. In his calculation, I'm the speaker. The rule is that the speaker doesn't have to stand when someone else enters the assembly. I'm representing Vyasadeva. I'm representing the literary incarnation of God. So everybody else stands, I sit. But he didn't take into account that Lord Balaram was not your ordinary guest. He was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so he didn't, Ramaharshan Sutta didn't do anything to honor him. And Lord Balaram didn't like this audacity and became angry at him. That, as Prabhupada said, what to speak of rising from his seat, not rising from his seat, he shouldn't have even been sitting there to begin with, because he was not qualified. Not qualified means by his activities he was not qualified. Prabhupada comments that one has to be both learned and gentle. We have this expression, this word, gentleman, the sign of a Vaishnava. Prabhupada said he's a perfect gentleman. So in Bengali also Bhadralok, gentleman. But he wasn't gentle. Means cultured and prideless. These are signs of culture. So this Romaharshan wasn't gentle. Just as we find the same thing with Shringi, the son of the Brahmin Shamik. He had some power, Brahminical tejas. He had some knowledge. He knew how to chant mantras and get things done, but he was uncultured. He probably called him the puffed up, uncultured son of a Brahmin. So here, a similar fault that Romaharshan may have been learned, but he wasn't cultured. And so Lord Balaram said he shouldn't have even been sitting here. After all, he was born in, his birth was degraded. And Prabhupada explains that according to Vedic culture, well, generally, a Brahmin marries a Brahmin man from a Brahmin family, marries a woman from a Brahmin family, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and so on. So there's an even match. But the exception allowed is that a man from a higher caste can marry a woman of a lower caste. We find that Karda Muni, a Brahmin, married Devahuti, the daughter of a Kshatriya. And they're similar examples. It was therefore not very much appreciated by Shukracharya when his daughter wanted to marry a Kshatriya. Shukracharya is a Brahmin, and this what was her name? The girl, Devyani. She was rescued from having been thrown in a well. The king rescued her. Then, all right, we should marry then. So Shukracharya wasn't very happy with this because she was a Brahmin's daughter. But all right, exceptional circumstance. And still there were problems. But, so that's called, when the higher caste man marries a woman from a lower caste, that's called anulom. And that's okay. But the opposite, when a high caste woman marries a lower caste man, that's called pratilom. And that's not accepted. That's not acceptable. So here, this Romaharshan Sutta was born of that kind of combination. His mother was of a higher caste than his father. So, but he was the disciple of Vyasadeva. He was a sage. So, all right, we forget all this. Vaishnave Jati Bhuti. If someone becomes a Vaishnava, then we don't consider jati, what family he was born in, what caste, what, no, that's, Vaishnav belongs to the Achyuta Gotra. He belongs to the family of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we don't have to consider. But when Romaharshan acted impudently, then his birth was recalled. It's natural. Someone's we put aside other considerations, and someone is elevated to a higher position because of his qualifications. But then if he acts impudently or ungratefully or betrays his duties, then we remember, wait a second, he was a whatever it was. You know, he was an American or then the birth was remembered. So here, Lord Balaram was angry and saw Romaharshan as impudent, and so he remembered that this rogue shouldn't even be sitting here. And then Balaram decided that because of his, now he's supposed to be representing Vyasadeva, he's supposed to be representing principles of Dharma, but he's abusing his position. And so, Vinashaya Chatushkritam, I've come to reestablish the principles of religion and to kill the miscreants. This man's a miscreant. So Lord Balaram killed him just with a kusha straw. Yes. Yeah, kusha straw, which is, blade of grass. So that's the omnipotency of the personality of Godhead with a kusha straw. It doesn't require a cruise missile or an AK-47 or anything. It's just a kusha straw is enough. So Lord Balaram killed him. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Krishna book, this is illustrated by a painting done by our BBT artists. One feature of it is that Romaharshan bears a striking resemblance to a popular yogi of the time. So the sages and Brahmins were disturbed and they said that to Lord Balaram that, well, wait a second, we put him there, and not only that, but we promised him a long life. As long as you're sitting on the asan, you'll live with no difficulty, undisturbed. And now you've killed him. So, number one, you've killed a Brahmin. That's not good. And you've invalidated our benediction. That's also not good. So you're the master of all mystic powers. Vedic regulations don't apply to you, but whatever a great person does, others follow. So you should do something to atone for this. And Lord Balaram said, well, I can atone for this, and also I can bring him back to life and restore all the blessings bestowed upon him, and anything else that you might ask from me. So then the sages said, well, Yes, it's true. We Brahmins gave him this blessing, and the blessing shouldn't be canceled. On the other hand, you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so what you've done shouldn't be canceled. So so it was something of a paradox. He shouldn't have been killed, and he shouldn't be brought back to life. So what can be done? Then Lord Balaram judiciously thought that, all right, all of the benedictions awarded to him can be transferred to his son, to Ramaharshan's son, because there's a Vedic statement that the son, that the father lives on through the son. That's another reason why in Vedic culture, especially if a son is there, the mother never remarries, because that means the husband is there in the form of the son. How can you marry another husband if the husband is still there? Yes. Yes. So now that was set, and Lord Balaram said, and whatever else you like, you can ask of me. So then they told him that there's this demon, Balwal, who appears every fortnight and spoils our sacrifice by polluting the sacrificial arena with blood and pus and all sorts of urine and stool and wine. It just showers all this filth on us. So please kill him and then continue your place of pilgrimage. Do that for 12 months, and then you'll be freed from the sin of killing a Brahmin. And that's our prescription. Prabhupada explains that according to the weight of the sinful activity, the Brahmins would prescribe a suitably weighty atonement. If it was a light offense, then a light prescription, heavy offense, heavy prescription. So this was the prescription given or suggested by the Brahmins to Lord Balaram. Any questions, comments? Yes.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Maharaj, in this we are...
No, louder. Okay. George Seboli.
Maharaj, how to understand that you already explained, but how to understand that sages are suggesting Lord Balaram?
You heard that? Nobody heard you, Manaji. You hold it very close and shout.
Sages are saying to Lord Balaram that after doing this, you go to sacred places and of pilgrimage, and you will be free, completely free from the sin of killing a Brahmana. But how to understand that sages are like, of course, they are very high, but they are saying Lord Balaram this thing?
Yeah, that means, again, it's Yogamaya at work. They're seeing that they're respecting him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and at the same time they're saying, but you killed a Brahmin. So therefore, you have to do something. This is Yogamaya's business, to reveal to some extent and also then to conceal. And certainly they can't prescribe, they know we can't prescribe anything for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but this was the arrangement. Yes. Something else. Sir?
Do this joke?
Hmm?
Okay. Someone's being like a Brahmin, just generally every Brahmin, and then fallen down for an extended period of time, can then become a Brahmin again in that same lifetime, an acting Brahmin. They can become
Let's have it again with the microphone.
If someone's been a Brahmin, but for some reason or other they fall down from that position for some time, not just like once or twice, but maybe for a period of time, can they become a Brahmin again within that lifetime? Or, of course they can become Brahminical again.
Someone's a Brahmin, but falls down for an extended time, and they become a Brahmin again in this lifetime. Let's think if we know any examples, relevant examples. Not really. He wasn't restored to, it just doesn't, other things happen. He became better than a Brahmin. Is there an example of someone of a Brahminical status who falls down and then comes up again? Shobhari Muni comes to mind, but he wasn't really, didn't really fall from Brahminical status, but he fell from an exalted position and then he was brought up again. Of course, devotional service is all powerful. By devotional service, one can go beyond the position of a Brahmin. And taking Bhagavad Gita, sadhureva samantavya, samyak vyavasito hisa. Even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he remains engaged in devotional service, he becomes, he has to be considered a sadhu, a saintly person, which is more than a Brahmin. And there, in the purport to that verse, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, I think it is, really extends it and says it's not just some small thing, but even the most grievous sinful activities, even if they continue for some time, can be set aside if he fully engages in devotional service. Okay.
Thank you.
Rup Sanatan, they were Brahmins. Of course, they didn't do anything terrible, but not a bad example. They were ostracized from Brahminical society. And of course, the Brahmins weren't going to let them back. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu considered that these are actually exalted persons. And so he engaged them in the as acharyas on the path of devotional service. Yeah.
Bilvamangala Thakur can be an example.
Bilvamangala Thakur be an example. He was addicted to a prostitute, although he was a Brahmin, but he became a person of the highest caliber. Yeah.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he didn't forgive Chota Haridas Thakur. The Chota Haridas Thakur episode, he was just thinking of a woman.
That's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He didn't forgive him, and then he had to commit suicide. And he said that was the good punishment for him.
That means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the independent personality of Godhead. He can accept Rupa Sanatan and he can totally reject Chota Haridas. That means to teach. Yes. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. I have two questions. The first one being, it's that if we're not humble, then our wisdom is just an outward dress.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, how can we make sure that our humility doesn't become the outward dress also?
Yes. Anything not that's just a show is not substantive knowledge where it's just a show. You don't really know, you just make a bluff or a show of humility or a show of anything. Show means pretension. Dharma prochita koita padama. The pretentious religion is kicked out of Bhagavad Dharma. So pretentious humility where it's just superficial. Please accept my most humble fallen obeisances. And then that's followed by insulting text. Better to start if you're going to start obnoxious, or you're going to be obnoxious, better to start obnoxious than make a show of being humble in the beginning. Who was that also? Shishupal. All the learned Brahmins here certainly understand. He's making a show of being judicious and so on, but really he's just going to rant. So there's, so pretension is not appreciated at all. Then your question is how to ensure that we are genuinely humble. Of course, there's no guarantee, but we should try for that. We should associate with other gentle people. We should be willing to, we should be introspective. We should examine, am I cheating or am I the real thing? We should be open to hearing from others who are our well-wishers and qualified people. And we should follow the principles of devotional service, meant to make us humble. We offer obeisances to the deity. It means it's throwing your body on the ground, so that we become humble. Our general attitude is that we're great, we have it together, but even the kings and the most powerful people would bow down before the personality of Godhead. In the second canto, it said that the grand turban of a great ruler is just a heavy weight if he's unwilling to bow his head before the personality of Godhead. Is that okay?
Yeah, and I was wondering if you would also like to share something about how the soul takes seemingly an impersonal form when it leaves the body and then merges.
How the soul seemingly takes, generally the soul doesn't seem to take an impersonal form. We don't see what happens. Soul just disappears from the body and that's it. The body's dead. We don't see more than that. But there were some exceptional circumstances, the killing of Shishupal being one of them, killing of Aghasura being another one, where the soul is seen to merge into the body of the Lord. This is Krishna's pastime, signifying that the soul was liberated from material existence and attained oneness with the Lord. It can also be taken as a criticism of the Mayavadi philosophers, that your oneness that you're trying so hard for, that you're arguing, studying Vedanta Sutra to justify, and for which you're undergoing tapasya and so much trouble, is as good as what the demons get. So it can be taken that way also.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. I have two questions, Maharaj. The first one is, even when Lord Ramachandra kills Ravana, I heard that he had to perform some atonement because Ravana was a Brahmin. Could you please share more about that?
No. As I confessed the other day, I'm really not learned in Ramayana. you'll need a Ramayan scholar, or at least someone who's watched the movie.
And the second question is, somehow forgot the second question. I'll maybe think about it.
At least I can't fail that one. Yes, someone else?
Hare Krishna. In previous chapters, we heard how Krishna was taking very humble positions of charioteer or washing feet of all the guests. And here, Lord Balaram is acting very different. And to my materialistic point of view, he's giving very harsh punishment for not a very big offense. So how can I see the mercy of Lord Balaram in his action of killing this sage or Brahmana?
Yeah, mercy, we think of mercy as being a nice pat on the head, and or if you've been condemned, we release you, and so on. But as Srila Prabhupada explains, killing a murderer, for example, is merciful. The murderer would otherwise have to suffer the results of his sinful activities. So by ordering him executed, the king does him a favor. That's mercy. Here also, this was good for Romaharsha. He offended the personality of Godhead. And now the offense is mitigated or neutralized because he's killed by Lord Balaram. And of course, it's instructive also. It's instructive. And if you're sitting on the asana, don't be like Romaharsha. Don't be puffed up. That's means setting an example or making an example out of someone. Prabhupada told that in, where was it? I forget which state, Northwest, but I forget where exactly. Prabhupada said that it was the kings were so strong that if anyone stole, then the king would have his hand cut off. And his hands would be cut off. So you look at this and you say, well, that's barbaric. You know, in our American system of justice, we don't do that. Cruel and unusual punishment. We maybe send someone to jail, but we don't cut off his hand. That's terrible. But as Prabhupada said, maybe it was Jaipur someplace. Anyway, he said there was no theft in that state. Because people know the king is so strong that if we do anything, then we'll lose our hands. We see that states come to mind where they've gone from being very strict to being very lenient, very understanding that people have had a difficult time, and so we're going to be merciful to them. And then nobody's life or property is safe. No one's life or property is safe. Crime rules. So, and then your currency collapses, and all sorts of other things happen to your state. People with intelligence and qualification emigrate. They go elsewhere because they know the government is so weak it can't even assure us of any reasonable standard of safety. But in a state like this, the thing where the thief will lose his hand, they know the thieves are not going to dare touch me. There's a strong king to deal with them. So that kind of strong justice it sets an example. Don't mess around, or you'll get punished. Danda damayatam asmi. Methods of suppressing lawlessness. I'm punishment. Bhagavad Gita. There's a similar incident in modern history of Saudi Arabia. I forget whether it was under Ibn Saud, the original king, or one of his descendants. There was some traveler who was coming from one city to another, and along the way he saw along the road some bags of what turned out to be coffee beans. He saw these bags, and he sort of tested them with his foot, with his toe, and saw, okay, this is coffee. And it's just lying here in the desert. So when he arrived at the city and went to the court, apparently he was some sort of official or whatever. Anyway, he reported to the court that this stack of coffee beans were lying there. King said, how did you know that it was coffee? And he said, well, I tested it with my toe. King ordered his toe cut off. You knew it wasn't yours. What business did you have? People were shocked, of course, but people were very careful about where they put their toes after that. Is that okay?
I just feel like a little bit like scared, maybe, like to make any offense like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people should be afraid of. We have this idea. It's this goes along with modern psychology from yesterday. We have this idea of justice, that justice should be predominantly lenient, that we should always take into account people's upbringing and the hard time they've had, and that we should, he stole, but his family was in hardship, and he's we have to be lenient because he's black or Hispanic or gay or whatever it is, and we have to be lenient. And so you get this situation where you just want to go easy on everyone. And then the result is that you have crime everywhere. People go to prison, they do something wrong, they go to prison, then they're released and they do it again and again and again. Murderers even. So the justice this is sent according to Vedic culture. No, king should be strong. He should really people should be afraid to commit criminal activities. They shouldn't, not that just the police will come and take notes later. They'll take no prisoners. They'll shoot first and ask questions later. Now, not the kind of things where we crunch on we strangle people to death because they're the wrong color or just because we're having a rough day. Not that. The opposite is that, then that person can be brought to justice with equal sternness. Justice should not be misapplied, but it should be strong. It should be strong. There was some other example I was thinking of. Yes, that's what I was thinking of. King Vena was so strong. He was a rogue, but he was powerful. And when he took charge, he would kill you like anything. Just like that. If you were a rogue, a thief, whatever. So the sages appointed him, and they saw this dust cloud out in the distance. What's that? That's the thieves taking off. Because King Vena was so strong that thieves were afraid to stay in his kingdom. Let's go someplace else. Let's go someplace else. Then he himself, however, behaved like a rogue. So they wanted to, the king is better than the Brahmin, so all the Brahmins should worship the king. No more sacrifices, no more. The Brahmin said, enough of this man. And they killed him, although Brahmins don't usually do that sort of thing. They made an exception for him. But the good side was that he was strong. Then he was replaced by King Prithu, who was both strong and dharmic. Yeah. Temple presidents even should be, anyway, I won't get into temple administration because there's two sides of that, and I'm not the person to give managerial advice, especially not here. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In the process of cultivating humility, a devotee could start feeling worthless, useless, maybe feeling low self-esteem, and that could also interfere in the execution of devotional service. So we have to avoid that.
The devotee feeling humility could start feeling low and worthless and have low self-esteem. That could interfere with his devotional service. Okay, a few things. First of all, we're in favor of low self-esteem. It's taken as some sort of symptom of pathology, psychological pathology. We're in favor of low self-esteem. This high self-esteem is nuts. I'm the greatest. I'm so qualified. I can do anything I set my mind to. I'm this. I'm that. This self-esteem, coming out of our pores, self-esteem, flowing like rivers through the streets of our city. Everybody's got to feel good about themselves. And if I don't feel good about myself, then I should spend, a few $1,000s for a seminar, a series of encounter sessions till I start feeling like I could take on the world. This is all nuts. It's all crazy. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, anyone who thinks that he alone is responsible for the outcome of actions is a fool. Akrita buddhitvan. And durmati, he's got bad intelligence. Because there's the place, adhisthana tata karta, there's the doer, me. Then karanam cha pratyagvidha, the different kinds of senses that we have. It's not that because I've got a powerful mind, I'm going to win a heavyweight championship. Not me. So the senses, vividhascha pratak cheshta, the effort, different kinds of effort put into it, and daiva chaivatra panchama. Finally, the hand of destiny or the hand of God. That's the main one. So anyone who thinks that it's only up to him is a fool. And that foolishness is what many psychologists would like to instill in us. If we have humility, it should be replaced by high self-esteem. We should think that we're the greatest. It's all rubbish. But your question is, what about when that interferes with devotional service? And I think I quoted or cited in a recent meeting that Srila Prabhupada says either in the purport either to Narada Bhakti Sutra, Prayers of King Kulashekar, he addresses this point. And he says essentially that when we carry these things to the point of giving up devotional service, it becomes sense gratification. Right? I'm so low, I'm so fallen. Our acharyas say that. I'm the lowest. I'm lower than Jagai and Madhai. I'm lower than the worm in the stool. These, our acharyas express this abject humility, which Sanatana Goswami says, without abject humility, we're not going to get Krishna's mercy. But when it comes to, I'm so fallen, I could never serve Krishna, so I might as well just give it all up and go back to material life, then it's self-indulgence, it's sense gratification. Then it's false humility, where I'm so humble that I'm not going to serve Krishna, I'm going to go back to serving myself. That's false humility. There's a prayer by Madhavendra Puri where he describes his own qualifications. I'm so disqualified, I'm not even born in a good family. I have all these, but I'm not going to give up my determination to serve Gopi Jana Vallabha Krishna, even though I'm unfit. Okay. Yeah. Something else? Oh, we're at 25 after, aren't we? All right. Thank you all very much. We have prasadam. We will have kirtan. We have books. They're usually $15.95 in America, but here they're on sale. Whatever you like, just give a donation. And we'll be here tomorrow evening again, inshallah. We're scheduled. Okay, and who's leading kirtan? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnu God Puramansa Pariprajukacharya Ashtottara Satashri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna.